Why is studying popular culture important? Well, today we're going to be taking a look at how South Korea has used popular culture to gain awareness from other countries in Asia, and how most recently that awareness has come to America, which is something that South Korea has been trying to do for a long time. So this was a big deal to them. Originally, in 2004, there was something called the Korean Wave. And this is the exportation of Korean culture all around Asia. So this is places like Japan, China, Taiwan, pretty much all the countries in Southeast Asia were idolizing and consuming Korean products. Now, some people may question, looking at music videos, food, fashion, are these really important things to study about a culture? It may be fun, but what's the value to studying that? So I think by looking at what South Korea has done in the last 10 or 15 years with their culture is really going to show how a country or a society can benefit by having other countries become more aware of their culture and then exporting that culture. So what do you know about South Korea? Well, South Korea is a small country in Asia, and it's situated between these two cultural giants, Japan and China. Now, especially in the 80s, Japan had a really big cultural boom, and it even made it to the West. But at this time, Korea was still a developing nation. Now, in the 90s, Korea would strengthen their culture as their economy would grow, but it wouldn't be until the early 2000s until we would see something called Hallyu, or this means the Korean Wave. Now, this is when Korea's culture had grown within Korea so big that they started thinking we can't grow unless we start exporting this culture to other countries. Now, the easiest was other Southeast Asian countries, like Japan, China. Korean dramas, or TV shows, were one of the first things that would be exported all over Asia. Korean dramas are famous for their huge plot twists, a lot of crying and just over-the-top dramatics, but a lot of Asian housewives would learn to love Korean dramas. Now, film was another big one, and the kind of breakout movie was called Old Boy. This was one of the first Asian movies in a long time to win the Cannes Film Festival in 2004. Korean fashion is another huge cultural export. Their brightly colored clothes, asymmetrical haircuts, these have become trends all over Asia. And it wouldn't be Korea without kimchi and food. Kimchi is a fermented cabbage. And here we have Korean barbecue, which is very, very popular. Now, the food and fashion consumption kind of stem from the dramas and movies. People would see the actors eating and wearing these clothes, and they would want them. This in turn would spark tourism in Korea. You saw a lot of Japanese and Chinese tourists coming to Korea to visit their favorite shops and scenes from dramas and movies. Now, the first Korean wave would kind of die down in the mid-2000s, and it wouldn't come back until about 2010, which is called the second Korean wave. Now, this is the explosion of K-pop. Again, it started throughout Asia, and it started to spread to Europe, and until most recently it has hit America. Now, there are these supergroups of boys and girls, sometimes they're up to 15 different people. Again, they're displaying this kind of funky, extreme Korean fashion, and they're selling out shows of 80,000 people around the world. Now, groups like these, the one you see here is called Big Bang. They've been selling out shows in the US, places like Madison Square Garden, for the past 2 or 3 years now, but still they haven't found mainstream success in America and Europe.
Their new CD is in stores now. Here's Girls' Generation with The Boys.
Wow.
Here we see other groups like Korean girl groups. This one's called Girls' Generation. Have been performing on American variety and late night shows like Live with Kelly and David Letterman. But still, we don't really hear this music on the radio at all. This is all until, of course, Psy, the Trojan horse of Korean culture, enters the scene.
Oppan Gangnam Style.
This music video with 850 million views on YouTube is the fastest and most watched internet video of all time. For the first time in recent history, An Asian star had made it in the West. Not a Chinese star, not a Japanese star, but the small country of Korea had reached mainstream success in America, reaching #1 on iTunes charts, Billboard charts, and being played on top 40 radio. This is really quite a feat, since the majority of Americans don't know one word of Korean, and having a song that's almost all in Korean topping all of the charts is really quite amazing. So is Gangnam Style just some wacky fluke that we'll remember back on, something like the Macarena? I'm sure Psy and the rest of Korea is working very hard to make sure this isn't the case. Just like cell phones and cars like Hyundai and Samsung are becoming widely used in America, Korea's been industrializing their pop industry and music industry for the last 20 years. Think of something like Motown. The Korean pop industry is an industry just like anything else. These groups are very, very manufactured, and oftentimes they're recruited as young as elementary school. They go to special schools and live in special apartments their whole lives, just waiting for the day to make it big in other countries like Japan or America or Europe. With the increasing popularity of internet streaming sites like YouTube, Korea looks like they'll be even more successful with exporting their K-pop to places like America and Europe. In Korea, the primary focus on music is visuals and TV. When a new song comes out, it's first premiered on live TV shows like this one you see here. Whereas in America, music's made more for CDs or for radio play. However, with the recent increase in internet speeds and smartphone usage in Western countries like America, Korean music videos will only be seen by more and more Western audiences. The recent cultural happenings in South Korea are just one great example of why we should be studying popular culture. A country's culture is directly connected to their economy, things like tourism. Not to mention, it's a lot of fun to look at the differences and similarities across different cultures.